After one of the most excruciating 45 seconds of Ray's life, the clip ended and he didn't look up. Couldn't, especially since he knew Carl wore that fucking smirk of his. Yeah, the video was that bad. Whoever had shot it had been far enough away, but the yelling, the anger, those had carried, even if the words hadn't. And from the angle, it did look like he'd thrown the bottle at Kevin. Fuck. It came out like a mantra, slow and long, and the word echoed in his aching head. So much for being in control, being a leader. And now you have no drummer, Carl said. Whatever will you do? Ray lifted his chin and met Carl's gaze, and lo and behold, the fucker flinched. Guess Ray still had that "I'm going to murder you" look down. Hire a new one. Ray didn't look away from Carl's dark eyes. I would think a manager of your caliber would know that. Silence in the room until Carl cleared his throat. Of course, and there'll have to be some other changes as well to smooth things over in the press. Dom shifted next to Ray, and Mish muttered something low that was probably profanity. She had a mouth worse than his and Dom's put together. What changes? Ray ground the word out. No more drinking for you, Carl said. And you'll make some kind of statement about getting help for your problem. The hell he would. He opened his mouth, but Mish beat him there. That's some fucking bullshit, and you know it. She rose from her seat at the edge of the bed, and all 6'1" of her towered over Carl. Why the fuck are you punishing Ray for Kevin being a drunken piece of shit? Carl craned his neck back to take in Mish, his immaculately styled blonde hair shifting into imperfection. Because without a fucking drummer, and with this, he waved at the tablet, making the rounds, we have to control the damage. We meant the record label. It never meant the band. God, the band. They needed the tour the label dangled in front of them, needed it far more than Ray needed his dignity or ego. Fine, I'll do it. He rarely drank anyway, and he did need help, some way to keep from destroying the chances they'd been given. Silence. Carl sat back against the ugly hotel chair and stared at him. Mish sank down to the bed. Ray, honey, are you sure? He nodded and locked eyes with Carl. But I'm not admitting I'm an alcoholic when I'm not. I'll say something about anger management or stress therapy or something. Carl raised his chin. That would be an acceptable alternative. And we need to put out a call for a drummer, schedule auditions. God, where they would find someone who could play as well as sober Kevin, Ray didn't know. But they had to. We'll have that ready to go once you make your statement. Wonderful. Ray swallowed bile and the urge to throttle the man across the table. Guess I better go write one then. He rose, put his back to Carl, and marched out of the room. Outside the rundown hotel, the air was hot and dry. Scrub and dust and too much sky as far as the eye could see, plus the ever-present roar of the nearby highway. They were somewhere in the middle of nowhere. He wasn't even sure what state they were in, only that it was off the beaten path so they could avoid the press. He hoped, anyway, because he probably looked like shit, felt like it, wanted to scream or curse or cry. They'd made it this far, the strange little band he'd put together. Dom, his best buddy from high school. Mish, the red-haired bass-playing crooner he couldn't stop watching at a bar because her performance had been so exquisite. And Kevin, the kid on YouTube who'd wrapped sticks against whatever he could to beat out such intricate patterns. He'd brought them all together, and they'd done the impossible. He swallowed the lump in his throat and stared at the wavering heat mirage in the road. Kevin hadn't survived the pressure of a surprise hit, all the publicity and touring. Maybe that was Ray's fault. He'd gone on and on about practices and looking and sounding their best. They hadn't had a break in months. Hell, it wore him down. Like Kevin, he'd turned to a favorite vice after too many sleepless nights. Once he'd discovered which of the men in the road crew didn't mind being drilled down into a mattress, meaningless sex had become his escape from the stress of being in the spotlight nonstop.